Hey everybody, it's Jamie from No Getting Off This Train, and in today's video, I am giving you both breakfast and dinner ideas on using up an entire ham. So I don't know about you all, but I have this really bad habit of buying a ham that is way too big for the three of us. I mean, Allison doesn't really eat ham anyway, so it's pretty much just me and John. And I tend to buy a ham that's like 10 pounds. But can you blame me when they're like a super low price? I usually buy mine for like 99 cents a pound or less, which is an insanely good deal. The problem is we will make ham for dinner one night and then we will try to use up the leftovers in a few different ways. I still cannot use up all the leftovers before we freeze it. It is crazy. So last week I made a huge ham for us and once again had to try to use up all the leftovers, but this time I recorded everything and put it all together into a video for you all today, and hopefully this will give you a ton of ideas on how to use up your leftover ham. Now I know ham is really good for the holidays like Christmas and Easter, but really it could be used all year long. I don't know about you, but I always buy a ham, at least one, either after Christmas or after Easter. I'll just keep it in my freezer. So on a random summer day or sometime in February, I'll be like, hey, I feel like making a ham. So you get it out and make it and then realize you have so many leftovers you don't know what to do with them. So I've got a few breakfast and some dinner ideas to use up all this leftover ham. Hopefully you can gain a few ideas from them. So let us go ahead and get started. Before we get into the recipes, let me just show you how I cooked my ham. I actually cook my ham in the slow cooker because it is so much easier. I usually don't add anything to it, but if I have canned pineapples, I will put that in there too and it makes it really good. But as you can see, I took out the entire ham, I think it's just like 8 or 9 pounds, and I chopped up what I could, and I also sliced what I could, so I had a little bit of each. And that night for dinner, we served the sliced ham with some green beans, homemade dinner rolls, and that's a package of the Knorr pasta side, which was really good. So here is what is left over. I have 2 big containers of chopped ham. I also have the ham bone, which I stuck in the freezer to use for like ham and beans later. And I have another large container of sliced ham that we can just use for sandwiches or just on the side for whatever else. So I've got a few recipes that I'm going to show you today. The first one is a ham frittata. Now, I guess you could probably call it an egg casserole because I think a frittata is when you just put the entire skillet in the oven or something. But I started with some olive oil and cooked up some onions. And then after that, I added some broccoli. I had to break it into smaller pieces to make sure we could actually eat it. I also had some zucchini that was left over from something. I added that in it as well. So I cooked all of that for a few minutes. Then in a separate bowl, I added some eggs to it and then some milk and scrambled those up. I also added some everything seasoning from Flavor God. I am obsessed with their seasonings. They are super good. I will link their website down below for you. I also added, it's probably like a cup and a half of ham and then a cup of shredded cheddar. I mix all of that together. Meanwhile, I had a 9x13 dish ready for it when it was finished. I added all the vegetables to it, mixed it all together, and then poured it into the dish. Now I baked this at 375 for about 30 minutes, I believe, and that was just enough time. This recipe served 6, so after slicing it up, I served it actually with some leftover dinner rolls, but then after the dinner rolls were gone, I used these ham and cheese biscuits, which I will show you the recipe for in a couple minutes. But this turned out really good. I like to put some hot sauce on top of my egg casserole too. It was super, super good. The next recipe is not even really a recipe. We just made ham and cheese sandwiches. I had some Swiss cheese, and I also used some of the leftover sliced ham. Now, Some of you told me instead of putting the butter on the bread, just butter the pan. And listen, that is a genius idea because this bread right here is so soft, I couldn't spread the butter. So this worked perfectly. Now, the one bad thing about a sandwich as big as this is that you have to keep flipping it over and over and over, and the insides don't really get melty, so maybe I should use a thinner bread next time. I don't know. It still turned out good. I sliced it in half. I also served it with some roasted Brussels sprouts and baby carrots. I try to include at least 1 or 2 vegetable sides with everything that we eat. Alright, now the next recipe is the ham and cheese biscuits, and I've made something similar to this before, and oh my gosh, it's so good. It's a basic biscuit recipe, so you've got your flour, your baking powder, you have salt, and then you mix it all together, and then you cut in the butter. I also added in some garlic powder here as well. But I used the fork to mix everything, and then I tried to use a fork for the butter, but it ended up not working very well, so I used my hands with a glove to try and mix up everything. After that, I poured in the ham. I tried to slice it up as small as possible, and then the recipe called for shredded cheddar, but all I had was mozzarella at this point, but it still turned out really good. After mixing it up, I took a cup of milk and very slowly poured it in and mixed it up as I went. At the very end there, I had to use my hands to get it all mixed together, and that worked well too. Now these are drop biscuits, so all I had to do was take a big spoonful and place them on a cookie sheet that was lined with parchment paper. It made 12 really big biscuits, and I baked these at 400 degrees for about 13 minutes, and the kitchen smelled so good after this. The bottoms of them were slightly browned, which was perfect. We served these for breakfast. We ate them by themselves. We also had a banana with it as well. For extra protein, you could also make some scrambled eggs to go with it, but this was really good. Now this was my breakfast. This is the last recipe. This is a ham and sweet potato and egg scramble. These are meal prep breakfast bowls, and if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that I love my breakfast bowls. I started with some extra sweet potatoes that I had left over from a couple weeks ago, and I took a cup and a half of ham, chopped that all up really finely, and then I sliced up an onion as well. While the sweet potatoes were cooking, I added a little bit of water to it as well just to help it cook faster. Then I added some more of that everything seasoning from Flavor God. It took about 10 or 15 minutes for the sweet potatoes to fully cook and get soft. I put them in a bowl, and then I added some more olive oil to the pan. Then added the onions to let them cook for a few minutes, and then I added the ham and let that cook for a bit as well. In the meantime, while those were cooking, I added, I believe it was 10 eggs to this bowl, added a little bit of water, and then scrambled those up. And then once the ham and onions were cooked, I added them to another bowl and then scrambled the eggs. I also added a bit of spinach just because I like to have my vegetables with breakfast. Then after a few minutes, that was all scrambled, so then I added everything to the pan and mixed all that together. This recipe also served 6, so I got out my meal prep containers, and I believe it was about a cup and a half of the mixture that went into each one. And oh, it's really full of protein, full of vegetables, healthy carbs from the sweet potatoes. I have been eating this with some cottage cheese, but you could also pair it with some fruit like a banana or an apple. And that completes all of my extra ham recipes. There were are a couple other recipes that did not make it into this video. One of them was a ham and broccoli cheese soup that I actually did on a YouTube live. I will link that down in the description. And I have another YouTube live coming out tomorrow, so once it's already said and done, I will link that below as well. But that is a ham and cheese tortelloni, which I think is going to be delicious. Now leave me a comment and tell me, what is your favorite recipe to use up leftover ham? I mean, I gave a few ideas, but I am always looking for more as well, as I'm sure most of you are too. And if you have any other suggestions on other videos you would like me to do, please leave a comment and tell me as well, because I'm writing down everything that you guys ask me. And if you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, please do so. That way you can be notified when more videos like this come out, as well as my other grocery hauls, recipes, and meal planning tips. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later.